YouTube world. This morning, the news finally got to me that amazing Lady Plunder, a YouTube creator, who is my hero now, got a hold of Kiely Rodni's autopsy and toxicology reports, and she read through each and every page and added some explanations of her own. And I just wanted to help out Lady Plunder a little bit, and as well as the YouTube community. I'm not going to read through the entirety of the report, but I'm going to be adding some illustrations to what that text was talking about. Let's get into it. So it covers Kylie's jewelry and says that personal property includes a white metal hoop through a piercing in the left ala nasi, and ala nasi is Latin and it's probably pronounced something else here in the States, but ala means wing and nasi means pertaining to the nose, and it is depicted right here. So ala is this wing of the nose, and the report is talking about the left side of Kylie's nose where she had the piercing. Next, they're covering her ear jewelry. Right ear has 3 white metal hoops through the helix. The helix is this harder part on top, and then the earlobe is the softer part on the bottom. And it is said that Kiely had a small crescent moon shaped stud earring through a piercing in the earlobe. Her other ear, the left ear, has a post through the helix, a small ball stud through the upper earlobe. So it's still this part right here, but it's upper area, and a crescent moon stud earring through the lower earlobe. So her earlobe was pierced in 2 spots, and I'm probably showing it wrong. Probably the lower one was here, and then the upper one was up here. As simple as that. Next, they talk about Kiely having 3 yellow metal chains around the neck. They are talking about Kiely having 5 bracelets on the right wrist and a discolored string anklet around the right ankle. And then they mention a piercing in the umbilicus, which bears just a white metal curved post. So umbilicus is just our belly button, does not get simpler than that. You can see the illustration on the right. And there were a lot of probably words pretty unfamiliar to most in the external examination, so I'll be briefly reading through some parts of it and explaining what was meant in the report. The report says the unembalmed body is that of a slender white female. And unembalmed just simply means that it was not embalmed in any way from decay. It was not preserved, so it was unpreserved from decay. Her body is in a state of moderate decomposition. There is generalized sloughing of epidermis, and sloughing just means peeling, and in moist conditions sloughing can also happen where skin kind of just slides off. The upper layer of the skin slides off, sort of like a glove would. And they say sloughing of epidermis. So our skin has 3 layers, 3 main layers. The top one is epidermis, middle one is dermis, and then the bottom part is subcutaneous tissue. So here they're talking about epidermis, or just the outermost layer of the skin. So we see generalized sloughing of epidermis, so it's sliding off, and except for portions of plantar skin, which readily separate, so they just slough off more intensely there. And plantar relates to the soles of the feet. So the skin of the soles of her feet was readily separating from the bottoms of the feet along with the toenails. So the toenails were following that epidermis and sliding off of the body. I apologize for graphic descriptions, but I promise there are not going to be any scary pictures in this presentation. At least that was the least I could do. All right, so a separately submitted segment of sloughed epidermis from one of the hands also bears a single thumbnail. So we see that hand skin was sliding off. Some nails, most nails looks like were sliding off along There is mild bloating of the body and generalized discoloration of the exposed dermis. So they mean that when the epidermis sloughed off of certain areas, some of that middle part named dermis was exposed, and that's what they mean by writing exposed dermis, ranging from pale gray green to dark maroon in color. And on her body there was no remaining rigor mortis, and rigor mortis refers to the stiffness of the muscles and joints of a dead body. It appears approximately 2 hours after death, and then stays up to 24 hours after death and then disappears. So stiffness of the body starts 2 hours after death from the face, and then covers all the other tissues and areas and stays set for up to 24 hours. So no remaining rigor mortis, no lividity pattern is discernible. So discernible just means identifiable or visible, and what they mean by lividity is reddish to bluish purple discoloration of the skin, which is caused by blood pooling towards the lowest points of the dead body. And a strong odor was detected by the examiner. No insect activity. Next, they write that the subject is normocephalic, and cephalic just means relating to the head, so her head is normal. That is what the sentence says. There is no apparent external head trauma. The scalp hair is almost completely sloughed due to decomposition and consists of wavy blonde hair up to 22 inches in maximum length. The facial features are distorted by decomposition and post-mortem positioning. Post means after, and mortem means death, Latin again. So after death positioning. The eyes are discolored from decomposition, although there is definition between the corneas and the conjunctivae. One is conjunctiva, and several would be conjunctivae. All right, so the cornea is the clear, curved front part of the eye. Right here, this clear part. This is where you want your contact lens to go when you are setting it into your eye. And they're saying there's definition between the cornea and the conjunctiva. Oh my gosh. So cornea is supposed to be continuous with the conjunctiva, so one becomes the other, and conjunctiva is just this continuation of the cornea, but in the area where you do not want to put your contact lens, so it is hidden. It is the part that is not exposed to the external world. And why they use a plural of conjunctiva here is because there are actually several layers to it as well, but I'm not going to bore you with that. I just wanted to mention that there is definition, which means difference, which means that this tissue is not continuous as it should be, and it's kind of separating. The interior, meaning back, the anterior chambers of the eyes are discolored from decomposition, and original color of the irises and definition of the pupils is obscured. So obscured can mean like hidden or hazy, just like unclear, you can't see it clearly. The iris is the colored part of the front of the eye. So if, for example, I'm green-eyed, so my iris is green. And then the pupil is the black part. It's the central part that, opens or dilates, in response to darkness, or then it can also become smaller if you're looking at something very bright. So the pupil is the black part, and it is controlled by the iris, and it controls the amount of light that enters the eye, just like a camera lens. Here, they explain it here very well. Awesome. So the color of the conjunctivae vary from pale maroon to pale green. The soft tissues of the nose appear normally developed, but distorted from decomposition. Both nares, and again, it is from Latin, just means nostrils, and patent means open. So both nostrils are open. Palpable means something that is identified by touch. So there is no palpable nasal fracture. So if you touch the nose, you would not identify any fractures or broken bones with your fingers. Other midfacial bones are also palpably intact. So these are the midfacial bones. Palpably means by touch. Intact, you guys probably know, so they're in good shape. The ears are softened from decomposition but appear symmetrical, so they're the same on both sides, but reflected symmetrically, of course. A small amount of fluid is present at the right external auditory meatus, and this is just your hearing canal right here. This is the external auditory meatus. Meatus just in general means canal. We have meatuses in other areas of the body. So a small amount of fluid is present in that canal, apparently from decomposition, but there's no apparent discharge from the left ear. The teeth are natural and in good condition. There is discoloration of the crowns of the teeth. And so our tooth has these two very, very basic parts. It's the root, so everything that's hidden like underneath the gum, and we can't see this area. And then the crown is just this entire top part. It doesn't necessarily mean a crown that someone would get installed at a dental office. It is just the anatomical word for the top part of each tooth. And the crowns of her teeth have a pale pink stain from decomposition. The oral mucous membranes, so oral means mouth. Mucus is mucus is mucus, you guys probably know. So it is this moist lip and cheek lining. Oral mucous membranes show deterioration, oh, that's a hard one, from decomposition with partial sloughing. This results in partial exposure of the anterior mandible and maxilla. So here's a picture. Mandible is the jawbone. Maxilla is this part right here. These changes all appear consistent with post-mortem or after death decomposition rather than trauma. There are no obvious intra-oral injuries. So intra means inside and oral means mouth. No injuries inside the mouth. A small amount of purge fluid is collected in the mouth, and purge fluids from dead bodies can be of many sorts. Maybe it could be vomit, it could be someone's just digestive tract relaxing and emitting fluids that way, but here we're talking about her mouth, so maybe it was vomit that was in her mouth and around her lips, or it could just be fluids from decomposition. The lips are softened from decomposition and show loss of surface epithelium, but are otherwise unremarkable. So epithelium is a tissue. Epithelial tissue is on the outer side of our body is just our skin, and then it also lines our internal organs. So that's just what epithelial stands for. The tissue is called the epithelium, and it consists of epithelial cells of various kinds that you can see in the pictures here. So basically, just the skin and the lining of her inner organs show some loss of surface. The neck has a slender, symmetrical exterior contour, slender, symmetrical on both sides. Exterior means on the outside, so this is the exterior part of the neck. This is the interior part of the neck. The neck has a slender, symmetrical exterior contour without evidence of injury. The cervical spine, and this is our spine, and this is its cervical part right here, our neck, 7 vertebrae. The cervical spine is easily mobilized due to decomposition, but is palpably stable. So palpably stable means if they touch it, it appears stable. But at the same time, it's very movable. So the structure is there, but it can be moved around quite a bit due to decomposition. Might sound like a little bit of a contradiction, but it's really not. So it's has a stable like carcass, but which can be moved due to decomposition. The larynx. So the larynx is our voice box right here, and trachea is this passageway underneath the larynx, and trachea goes into the lungs. And then right here we have esophagus. This is how the food travels. We don't want to get it into the voice box. It travels through the esophagus and into the rest of the digestive tract. And then air travels also through the nose or through the mouth, through the voice box, and through the trachea, and then until it reaches our lungs. The larynx and trachea are palpably midline. So midline of the body is depicted right here. Just means in the center. So you touch, they touched it and they were located in the center. They were not misplaced, like not knocked out of place. The chest is symmetrical on both sides, and the chest wall is palpably stable. The breasts are normally developed adolescent female. Unlike this picture, I think this is probably a male. So the breasts are normally developed without palpable masses. We palpate healthy breasts to make sure there's no skin cancer. Maybe they were palpating it for masses to find some signs of injury in this case, I'm guessing. The abdomen is slightly distended. Distended just means swollen, and abdomen is the stomach area right here. So the abdomen is slightly distended. So the stomach is slightly swollen. Kind of like even when we living humans eat a little bit too much of food, our abdomens become distended, or our stomachs become swollen, in that lower area. Okay, so Kylie's abdomen swollen due to post-mortem tissue gas formation. After death, her tissues were forming gas, and that gas accumulated in her abdomen and caused a swelling, is what they're saying. The external genitalia are normally developed adolescent female. A speculum examination reveals no evidence of introital or vaginal trauma. And introitus is just the external opening of the vagina. And they examined it with a speculum, which is a metal or plastic instrument that is used to dilate the vagina, in this case, the vaginal canal. The perianal skin, so it means around the anus, Anus is where the digested food comes out of. The perianal skin shows discoloration from decomposition, and otherwise everything is fine with it. And so they mention some sort of cap in her vagina, and what they're talking about is the Diva cup. It's a menstrual cup. The ladies are probably familiar. Men are getting a little bit of education here, maybe. It is a cup that collects menstrual blood. So here in this map of the mysterious, amazing human female body, this is the bladder. This is the uterus where the baby grows. This is the digestive tract. And so this is the vaginal opening, and this cup is made of silicone, and it's inserted inside the vaginal canal, and it collects all the blood that is dropping out of the uterus during the menstrual cycle. And then it gets pulled out, the fluid tossed out, the cup washed, and they're usually reusable. And next, there is a T-shaped plastic intrauterine device, and I have a picture of that too. T-shaped plastic intrauterine device. So intrauterine device, IUD, and it's not a copper IUD like they used in the older ages, and it's still used sometimes these days. So it's a T-shaped plastic, and I think somewhere he wrote that it was small, so I'm thinking it was either Kiely or this other brand. So basically, what's done is that this T-shaped plastic, sometimes they call it umbrella, but that sounds scarier than it really is. It's really just a T-shaped device. It inhibits sperm from reaching and fertilizing the eggs. So ovaries make the eggs, and these are the fallopian tubes. And the IUD thins uterine lining and thickens cervical. So cervical is not like cervical that we saw that related to the neck, but this area is called the cervix. Cervix. Between the vagina and the uterus. So and mucus were already covered, so it thickens cervical mucus to prevent sperm from entering uterus. So this is like a three-sided protection from unplanned pregnancy. So Kiely had this inserted. And most OBGYNs do not recommend using menstrual cups with IUDs. Some people safely do that. It's just a medical opinion, differs in the community on that. And I also wanted to say that the menstrual cup is the most environmentally friendly period care out there. This is just part 1. Please give me feedback, you guys. If this is helpful, I will do part 2. I just want to see if this format helps the community. And very briefly, I want to also cover, I don't want to leave without covering the toxicology report. Toxicology is not my forte, not my strongest suit, but I have some basic understanding of how it all works. So in her report, they are mentioning liver tissue alcohol concentration of 88 milligrams per 100 grams of liver tissue. So 88 milligrams of alcohol per 100 grams of liver tissue, and this is not 88%. The average liver to heart blood ratio is 0.56. So that's taken from the Journal of Forensic Sciences. The article is a bit older, to be honest. Maybe there have been newer developments in this, but this is just what I found. I doubt that, the science revolutionized itself from then. And if we do some basic conversions, so liver to heart blood ratio 0.56, then this makes Kiely's blood alcohol concentration 49 milligrams in 100 milliliter per 100 milliliters of blood, which is 0.05% blood alcohol concentration. And let's look at what it means in terms of driving. So it is illegal for any person to operate a vehicle with BAC of 0.08 or higher. But if that person is also under 21 years old, it's illegal for them to operate a vehicle if their BAC is 0.01%. It looks like Kiely's intoxication was somewhere in between, where an underage person cannot drive, but then someone over 21 can. So it's not an extreme level of intoxication that, I'm seeing here. And if we look at blood alcohol content, so it goes by body weight, Kiely was 103 pounds. And so if she falls in this range, it's like she had one drink. But then I had a look at another areas of the toxicology report, and looks like it was not there. There was a tox problem, but it was not the alcohol. So this information was taken from Nevada County Sheriff's Office toxicology report, and then there was also a toxicology report performed by an independent laboratory, and they analyzed 58 milligrams of Kiely's liver tissue. And liver is so important in these forensic matrices, what they call, because liver detoxifies the blood and it breaks down alcohol and medications. And then the NMS Labs tox report mentions cotinine, could also be pronounced cotinine. Both pronunciations are correct according to the medical dictionary. And it is just a product formed after the nicotine enters the body. So here's nicotine, here it enters the body, and it becomes cotinine. So we don't know how exactly she consumed that nicotine, but theorizing, in her generation, most folks probably vape. And then in this NMS Labs tox report, the word that caught Lady Plender's attention was presumed positive. And so there are two types of drug testing: presumptive, and the results are presumed. And then there is definitive screening. So no shade at NMS Labs, they did both. So first they did like just a general sweep. These screen tests are what someone might do at their place of work. They're fast, inexpensive, and ideal if you need frequent random drug testing. But again, NMS Labs did both. So they did a good job there. I still have some questions, but they're in the next slide. So the part that I found very credible is that they used ELISA, and it's a very accurate testing technology. My question is, where are the details on fentanyl in her system? Was it negative and they didn't include it? Was it not requested? Was her state of decomposition too advanced to test for that? Which I highly doubt, because they kept pieces of Kylie's liver and they were able to test it for all the other substances. So Eliza does test for fentanyl. It's a kit that costs $249. And I don't see it on Kylie's report, and it's important. All right, you guys, please have a lovely, lovely weekend. Stay safe, everyone. Kids and adults, don't drink and drive and pop pills. Love you all so much. Big hugs, and we'll talk soon. Bye.